Hey guys, it's Vince and Drew with Power 5 Fanatics again, and we're going to do our weekly Pick'em show.
Picks
And,
against the spread.
Yeah, and we picked 20 we consider the better games of the week. Most of them are top 25, not all of them. Anyways, we're just going to start from the top. There's only one game Friday, I believe, and it's actually a really good game. I was impressed with it. It's Washington State at Houston, and we got Mike Leach covering the 8.5 points that they're giving to the Cougars. It just seemed like offensively they got too much going on. And Houston's been a little bit iffy this year.
Yeah, I haven't been too impressed with Houston. I thought, week one they played against Oklahoma. I thought they had a legitimate – did they cover that game? I can't remember the spread, but I thought they had a legitimate shot to maybe be on upset alert, where they could maybe beat them.
They're having a hard time scoring right now.
And their defense does not look good. Yeah. So I'm taking Washington State in that game.
Moving on to Saturday, Big Ten matchup. I like this one a lot. Actually, I think this is one of the better games of the week. It's Ohio State at Indiana. Ohio State minus 16. We're going to go with Ohio State giving the points on the road, but I'm telling you, man, that one's iffy because Indiana has been playing lights out,
right?
At least by Indiana standards, and they've really been playing good this year, along with a lot of teams in the Big Ten. It just seems super competitive, like the Big Ten maybe beating each other up as the season goes on. But we're going to stick with the old standby because Ohio State's really given us no reason either to believe that they won't be able to get this done either offensively or defensively.
Yeah. I like Ohio State in this game. I like it how it's right under 17 points, which would be 2 touchdowns and a field goal. But like Vince said, watch out for Indiana. You hear the name Indiana and you kind of think, well, they're not, Ohio State should
they
take
play
care
basketball
of them.
pretty good.
But this Indiana team, at least through week 2,
they've looked solid.
Looks like a pretty underrated team.
Yeah,
under the radar.
I've liked them a lot. I kind of like Maryland a little bit. I'm not saying offensively they've been that good. They've been pretty strong and kind of out of nowhere. Somebody you don't think about. We'll see how it goes with them. I mean, if they win that game, Indiana, they're in the top 25 as far as I'm concerned.
Right.
Then we got this is an interesting one. Quite a few in-state rival games where, they're not in the same conference. Pitt at Penn State. And Penn State's given a pretty big number up, minus 17. And we like them to be able to cover that against Pitt.
Yeah.
Pitt's been a little bit shaky this year, to say the least.
Yeah, Penn State has been a surprising team to me, and not that I didn't think that they were going to be good because they're what you'd almost consider a blue blood type of program where they reload year in and year out. But I did think that this would be kind of a rebuilding year because they got a lot of youth on that team, but and they lost their Trace McSorley, their starting quarterback last year, but they've come out and kind of proved me wrong, honestly, as far as the way that their offense has been playing and that defense as well. So I think playing in Happy Valley, it's a rivalry game.
I think they're going to
cover.
But
I think that they'll cover that 17. So
next we got one of our favorite teams, Maryland at Temple. Maryland is giving up 7 points, and we have them as one of our locks for the week. I just don't think Temple, even though they're playing at home, is going to have enough to withstand Maryland from what we've seen first 2 weeks. I mean, they got one of the better offenses in the nation right now.
Yeah, Temple.
They may have the best offense in the nation. I don't know.
Yeah, Temple's kind of been one of those upper echelon group of 5 teams the past several years where they can maybe scare you pretty good, but we've been beating this Maryland drum for a few weeks now, and
well, they've given a lot of reason to do that, and we like them. It's a pretty big number on the road, but we think they're going to pull through, and that is one of our locks. We have 3 of them for the week. Next, we got Bama at South Carolina. Alabama's giving up 24.5, which is a lot of points, and we've decided the Gamecocks are going to be able to cover that number playing at home.
It's a 24.5 point favorite for Alabama on the road.
South Carolina really bounced back last week.
Yeah,
I know they played. It wasn't like it was any.
It was Charleston Southern.
Yeah, but
played.
What they scored,
I mean,
60
they absolutely
points.
destroyed them. It was like 70-14.
Yeah,
or
I think
something.
it was. I think they scored 70.
And Tyler Helinski, I believe is his name, or it's their backup quarterback, came in for South Carolina last week, and I'm hearing he played so good that it's put the starting quarterback into thinking maybe he should transfer. And I think that's a pretty gritty team. They play pretty good defense.
I'm thinking something like 45-25, 45-20.
Yeah.
45-25.
I think they'll be able to cover, and I like how the spread's a point or a half point above the 3 touchdowns and a field goal point at 24. It's 24.5, so they got to score more than 3 touchdowns and a field goal to cover that. So I think the home team will be
I think
able
they're going to cover that.
Yeah, hang in there and cover as well. So.
Next, we got Stanford at Central Florida, and the Group of 5 team is giving the Power 5 team points, 7.5, and we like UCF to cover that at home.
Yeah.
They definitely look like the best Group of 5 team without a doubt so far.
Well, I think what we were saying yesterday, UCF's kind of flying under the radar nationally again. I mean, I don't know how many times they're going to have to win to start getting some respect.
It's just the nature of college football.
It's the nature of college football. Yeah. They're not one of these perennial powerhouses, but we saw what USC was able to do against Stanford last week. I believe Stanford still has their backup quarterback playing this week. UCF, I mean, they've been a consistent program over these past several years, so I really think that they're going to be able to cover that 7.5.
Going back out west, we got another interesting matchup: USC at BYU, and USC's giving points in this game, 4.5 points. We like USC. Slovis played extremely well his first game, so I think maybe he's got enough, that first game jitter, you get that out, and then maybe he can kind of take off of that a little bit. And Helton's really playing for his job. I mean, they're 2-0, I mean, they're doing what they need to do, but I don't think I think he's got to win to keep his job, especially with Lynn Swan stepping down as AD there. Whoever they hire, they got a temporary AD now, but whoever is the new athletic director at Southern Cal, I'm sure is going to want their own coach.
Unless Helton can,
unless he gives them
right
reason.
The ship. BYU, they've been playing some interesting games.
Yeah, they're.
I mean, they play.
They're very. You can't really get a gauge on them.
Yeah. But like they've been in some interesting games. The week 1 they had the Holy War against Utah. Last week they beat Tennessee.
Yeah.
That was a fun game. I don't know if anyone really watched that. There was a lot of other games going on at the same time. And then this week they get USC, and USC
they're playing
been playing at a level that you would think maybe a USC team should be playing at. I mean, of course, there's some improvement that can be done because they got one of the most talented rosters in the whole country, bar none. Top 5 roster. But like
just got to bring it all together.
Yeah,
looks like they are a little bit though, even with their starting quarterback out.
Yeah, so we'll see if Helton's able to do that this week, but I think they're going to cover.
Then we go to a Pac-12 Big Ten matchup: Arizona State at Michigan State. Michigan State's given up 2 touchdowns, 13.5, and we do like them to cover on that game. Michigan State doesn't score much, but they also don't allow much scoring at all or yards, period. Arizona State, with their freshman quarterback, week 1 had a great game. The kid did. And then last week, the team seems like they regressed a little bit and didn't look as sharp as they did the first week. I think Michigan State just got too much defensively.
Yeah.
Where that could be like a 30-15 game or something like that.
Yeah, or, maybe even lower scoring. I could see a 23-7 game
or
24-10 kind of thing where
I don't know what the over-under on that one is, but it might be a good under one also.
Yeah.
Big Ten and Big 12 matchup. Like I said, there's a lot of good in-state matchups this week. This is one of the better games of the week. Iowa at Iowa State. Iowa's the Hawkeyes are giving 2 points, and we like them to cover.
Right.
So, there is going to be the home field advantage, definitely, but not as much maybe as in some stadiums, because as many Hawkeye fans can fit in to the stadium in Ames, Iowa, they're going to be there.
Yeah.
And Iowa's defense right now, it maybe not looking as good as Wisconsin or Michigan State, but I'd say they're maybe the third best defense in the Big Ten.
Yeah, they got some all-conference type of guys on that defense for Iowa, and to be fair, so does Iowa State.
Yeah.
But
They really embarrassed. Who was it this last week? Iowa. Can't remember who it was now. They really embarrassed them. I think it was 30-0. It was Rutgers.
there you go.
Pretty sure it was Rutgers. And Rutgers, I know that's, they're usually
lower Power 5
yeah,
program
but they
right
really
now.
looked good week one. They scored a lot of points. They were blanked. So
Yeah.
I was looking pretty good. I mean, I'm talking about even like,
Well,
for a Big Ten
Offensively, I think they look pretty good. And
Yeah.
Nate Stanley, he's a NFL prospect at quarterback, and I think they're starting to finally figure it out there. But this is an underrated rivalry, in my opinion. Iowa State and Iowa. There's going to be some emotions in this game, and these are the type of games I usually try to stay away from betting on because there's so many extra factors that
Right.
go into these type of games. You don't know what these kids are thinking. You don't know what these kids aren't
And
thinking.
Iowa State is an enigma right now because they started so terribly.
And then they didn't have a chance to redeem themselves
Yeah,
last week. So
I really don't know about Iowa State.
Yeah.
I mean, people were pretty high on
I
them.
mean, they
in the
could
Big
be
12.
they could be a Big 12 dark horse. They could also not be a dark horse.
Yeah,
in
no,
the
they
Big
could be a
12.
500 team.
Yeah,
Um,
but we got Iowa covering that game. So.
Moving on, we got actually an SEC matchup: Florida at Kentucky. Florida is giving 8 on the road, and we like Kentucky to cover that.
Yeah.
Kentucky's really kind of been a surprise team too, a little bit. I know they were really good last year, but I think they lost a lot of their talent, and I think some people kind of were writing them off, maybe.
Yeah, they're. I think they're also kind of underrated right now. Of course, they lost Josh Allen and they lost Benny Snell. Is it Josh Allen? I think it was.
Yes,
Yeah.
you talking about the defensive end?
Yeah.
And those are two of the better
Those
players
are probably
in the nation.
the
last
best
year.
players they've ever had
Yeah.
at Kentucky. Seriously, I mean
Right.
those are generational.
So there wasn't a whole lot
type of
expected
Kentucky
this
players.
year.
But this game last year was really interesting because the 31 years prior to that, Florida had won this game, and it was.
Was it 31 years in a row?
I think so, and
I wouldn't
Kentucky,
doubt it, but-
Kentucky had to get through this mental barrier of finally beating Florida.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? Last year they did beat Florida, but the only deal is this year I like their defense. I like their team in general, but I don't think Terry Wilson is playing for Kentucky. I really like him at quarterback. He's a true dual threat. He can pass and he can run. I don't think he's playing this week, sadly. I wish he was, but even so, I still I think Kentucky's going to be able to cover this, especially at home.
Moving on up north. This has been a big game the last couple years, and there's been an upset. Clemson at Syracuse.
Yep.
Don't think there's going to be an upset this year, but I do think Syracuse is going to cover because they're getting 27.5 points, and we're going to take Syracuse in the Carrier Dome, covering that one.
It's funny that last week Syracuse gets beat by Maryland by 43 points or something like that.
At least that much.
But I don't think
Might
they
have been
get.
50.
I mean, even if it is Clemson, I just don't know if they get embarrassed that way again. They might.
Yeah, and they're playing at home, and they always play Clemson tough, and it's 4 touchdowns. So we're going to stick with the Orange Men with Syracuse on that.
Yeah.
We're kind of in an underdog lane right here because the next one's another underdog that's been pretty surprising. Hawaii at Washington. Washington's giving 20.5, and we like Hawaii to cover that one also.
Yeah, Hawaii to me is kind of first of all, they're pretty good offensively.
Yeah, they're on the verge of the top 25 also. I mean, if they win this, they're in.
They're just one of the scrappier teams I've ever
Yeah.
seen. I mean, they find a way to win a game. I mean, I think they had 7 turnovers against Arizona in week 0, and they won the game with 7 turnovers, I believe.
That was against Arizona.
Yeah. And Arizona has not proven to be a great team.
But still, that's a lot of turnovers, and then you win the game.
I mean, it's hard to win when you have that.
That's why we Washington's probably going to bounce back pretty good. You know, they got embarrassed this last week losing at home to Cal. But that's a lot of that's 21 points.
It'll be hard for Hawaii to cover that, but I think they will.
Moving on, we got some Big 12 action in the next 3 games. Actually, next 4 games are all Big 12 teams against other teams in the other conferences. First one's Oklahoma, UCLA.
Right.
Oklahoma's given a big number up, 22.5 in Los Angeles. I guess they still play at the Rose Bowl, I assume. UCLA does. And they're giving 22.5 points. Yep. That's one of our locks, though. That's a lot of points, but UCLA, you know, what they hang their hat on, their offense has just been terrible. Their defense has been better than their offense.
Yeah. You got to think eventually Chip Kelly's going to be able to get the offense figured out there.
Yeah, they just don't have the
but
guns
they don't
right
have
now.
They don't have the guns.
Yeah.
And Oklahoma,
they're a passing team that can't pass the ball.
I wouldn't be surprised if this isn't close at all. I mean, I think that
I could see a
going to be able
blowout.
to absolutely blow the top off.
That's one of our locks. Oh, and by the way, we skipped the one before. Hawaii is also one of our locks. So,
right.
Moving on, we got Texas at Rice, an old Southwest Conference matchup.
Right, that'll be fun.
Again, we like the big number covering Texas, 31.5 playing in Houston. And again, from what I've seen with Rice, I just don't think they can keep up offensively with UT. Texas has looked, definitely top 10 team, even after losing to LSU. Moving on, we got this is an old border conference matchup, which nobody on this YouTube channel is even going to know what the border conference was. But Texas Tech at Arizona. Texas Tech is favored by 2.5, and we like Texas Tech to cover that. Their offense has been great as usual. Their defense has been much better than it's been. I know it's not saying a lot, but they've only given up, I believe, 13. I'm sorry, they've had 13 3-and-outs the last 2 weeks. I know it's been inferior competition, Montana State and UTEP, and I think they're only giving up 220 yards a game, and they've only allowed 13 points. So I don't think Arizona can hang with them. I mean, I'm thinking, touchdown at least, maybe 10 points. Tech's going to win this game.
Yeah. I think Tech not only is going to win this game, but I also agree they're going to cover. I just think Tech's more disciplined than Arizona. I mean, just what I've seen so far, Arizona kind of seems like they're kind of nitty gritty and not giving up the ball real easy, and
right.
Tech just seems like they're with the new coach Matt Wells, they've turned a corner. It seems like as far as the penalties go. And some of the other
they're not getting the turnovers yet, which his defenses usually get a lot. So they're doing this without getting any turnovers, and eventually that's going to swing
It just seems like they're more consistent. And I think that, they're going to be able to go on the road, I believe, and not only win but also cover this spread.
Next, we got Kansas State at Mississippi State. So a battle of the states. And Mississippi State's favored by 7.5. And we like the Wildcats to cover that one, the underdog. And last year, I know Mississippi State really wore Kansas State out in Manhattan.
Right.
But Kansas State, I don't know what to make of them. They're like a lot of teams, but I do know this. They're not allowing many points, and they're scoring a lot. I believe they won last week 50-0, I think it was.
Yeah, 52, 55-0, something like that. Yeah.
And anyway, that's more than a touchdown. We like Kansas State covering that.
Yeah.
This next one, North Carolina State at West Virginia. North Carolina State's actually giving points in this game. They're giving 6.5, and we like them to cover that against the Mountaineers. The Mountaineers have just not looked good anywhere. Their offense hasn't looked good. Nothing's looked good. They're one of those teams, kind of like UCLA, that's really been a dud coming out of the gate. And maybe – I don't think a whole lot was expected of them, but right now they're I think they may be the worst team in the Big 12.
Yeah,
Kansas
probably
be.
is.
I don't know. I think Kansas may be a step up from them right now. They're both not real good, but anyways, we like NC State covering that.
Yeah.
Staying here in the Big 12, another in-state battle. Oklahoma State at Tulsa.
Right.
Oklahoma State giving up 14. We do think they're going to cover that. Their defense hasn't looked great, but they're scoring a lot of points as normal. And we do think they'll cover the 2 touchdowns.
I think the score will be something like 35-17,
Yes.
or something like that. They're going to
I
give
could
up
see
some
that.
points. They're going to give up some yards, but they're going to, they're going to stop them when it matters.
Yeah, and it might be
Kind of-
close to the first half, and then third quarter they'll probably
Yeah.
pull away.
Yeah.
Last 2, we got Colorado State at Arkansas. Arkansas has been another one of those teams. You don't know who they are half the
Right.
time. Arkansas is given 9.5, and we have enough faith in them to cover that against Colorado State, because Colorado State really hadn't shown too much this year either.
Yeah, this is tough, honestly. I mean, Arkansas, man, they have really struggled offensively just over the past several weeks. I think they played Ole Miss last week, and man, I mean, it hasn't been good. But Colorado State's not really a pushover team either. But 9.5, that's 10 points to cover.
We're going with the Hogs.
We're gonna go with the Hogs. So
Last game, this is an interesting game. TCU at Purdue.
Yeah.
I don't know how many times those teams have played. I bet you could count on one hand how many times they played. TCU's giving 2.5 points on the road, and we like the Boilermakers to cover that. In fact, I like them to win outright against
this will be
TCU.
a fun game.
I think it will. That's one I'm definitely going to watch.
Purdue's been up and down. They lost week 1 against Nevada, but then they go out the next week. Last week now, and
They beat Vanderbilt.
They beat Vanderbilt
Badly.
42-20 or something like that. TCU, they're one of the better defenses in the Big 12, so I don't expect them to put as much points.
It ought to be a great game.
But
I just think
yeah.
Purdue's going to get enough done at home, and Purdue's another one of those Big 10 schools where there's about 5 or 6 of them in the middle, and they're better than the other 5 or 6 in the middle of the other conferences, in my
Right.
opinion, and they're one of them. But that's who we got. Again, the 3 locks. We got Maryland, Hawaii, Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And we appreciate you guys staying with us and watching our show. We're gonna have some other videos, at least one more this week. And anyway, subscribe, share, hit the bell notification. We'll have some more coming out.
Make sure to check out our next video, the 4 takeaways for week 2
From
of
week
college
2.
football.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.